It's got that foreign look to it.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Yeah.
Well, I do notice, so if the battery's not fully charged, the speed falls right off, like it's only half charged.
it. Oh, so it's not like it's on or off, it just slows down.
Yeah.
We got a form.
Yes.
You know John Purcell's from Herkimer? John Purcell's from Herkimer? Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Jefferson County Local Development Corporation for March. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, is there anyone from the public that might be with us that would like to address the board this morning?
Just for Peggy for the minutes, John Purcell, so who are you affiliated with?
Yeah, hi, I'm with 7 News.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, welcome aboard, John. Morning, Tom, morning, Matt.
Morning, thank you.
We all received our minutes from our last meeting. Is there any additions and or corrections? None? Can I have a motion and a second to accept them as presented?
I'll move it.
Moved. Rob Alonso.
Fred?
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries, thank you. Treasury report, Rob?
Page 6 of your package, good morning. Again, we're on target, down budget. Break even is 96,000 a month of revenues. On a linear basis, we're right at 104. A lot of it has to do with the probably just timing issue of some of the different matters, but nevertheless, we're ahead of schedule on the collecting cash side, and luckily we're behind schedule on the spending cash side. So on expenses, again, break even budget 96,000 a month would be break even. We're spending on the average of 82,000. So net for the year at the bottom of your page, we're 113,000 surplus at this particular moment. And just to note, last year we did achieve $170,000 surplus. So we're probably on target to obtain a surplus still. Page 7, 8, and 9 of your packets are the major programs under JCLDC. Nothing peculiar about any of those. They're all below spending targets on the what was achieved in a lot on a budgeting basis. The 10-year board pack and balance sheet. So our quick assets are about 59,000 higher than prior month. Our receivables are about 5,000 lower than prior month. So total current assets are about almost 54,000 higher than prior month. Total assets are about the same, 53,500 higher than prior month. Total liabilities, 19,000 higher than prior month. Total capital was 34,000 higher than prior month. Page 11 of your packet are our major programs, and while they are still all as the current, the status.
Still all current, that's correct.
Okay. So this again, as you know, from last month, we received about, the differences, we received about $3,400 of payments of various loans that are here, community interest and what have you. That is the treasurer's report. I need a motion to accept it as recommended.
Okay. Any discussion? Questions? On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Committee reports, alternative energy. Bill?
Yes, we had a joint energy loan review committee meeting on 23rd of February. We discussed several different issues. Probably one of the more important ones that I think we're recommending to the full board is that we address our UTEP as far as alternative energy goes, either separate UTEP for alternative energy or some sort of amendment or riders for our current UTEP. So that was discussed, and I really want to move that forward and start working on that. We talked about a couple projects. There's two projects in Champion by Omni that I guess are on hold. Is that still true, Dave?
I did hear back from Peter McCall the other day, and he's saying he's hoping to close within the next 30 to 90 days, 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
So they just weren't ready to close.
There was a new project that arose that I guess there was some mix up in, but it's in Phelps Mills by a newer developer for us called White Star. But I guess the way I understand it, at this moment, they're going to go the 487 route with the taxing jurisdictions. Really, that's out of our hands for now. We talked about the new siting regulations in 94C. Also, the governor's budget has to do with alternative energy, the way that they're gonna do the assessment on these projects. And Paul could probably add something to this, but we're concerned about how that actually is gonna affect the way we are already assessing projects and how they're gonna be assessed in the future. So that is a concern of ours, and we probably want to look out from that for last year's budget we passed.
What that is, there's a new section of the real property tax law that's been proposed that will establish the guidelines for appraising these projects. And my one concern that really doesn't bother me that much is they're going to establish that it's going to be income capitalization or discounted cash flow methodology, which we're already doing. So that really doesn't concern me that much. But the one that does is they aren't going to establish the criteria for the inputs into an appraisal, expenses and what incomes can be used until after it's adopted. So there's no way to judge what the impacts might be at this point in time. So they could, establish certain parameters that could drive down the appraised value significantly. So until we know what that is, we're not going to know what the impacts are. And I think that just kind of reverses what it should be. We should outline those guidelines first, just to let us decide whether it's something we want to support or not.
Paul, I got a question. In that process, right now, for what's being proposed, as it relates to the power purchase agreements for a lot of these projects, and a couple of them potentially being bigger ones, is the state shifting its course there? I mean, the determining valuation depend on income possibilities of these projects. It's all going to relate to what they're selling this power for to the end user.
Maybe.
The state is kind
My
of taking.
concern is, let's talk about Borderlands. They received a grant from NYSERDA, and it's just under $15 a megawatt that they're going to buy all the renewable energy credits. So the question I have, is that going to be considered income? Are they going to consider if they're selling the power through a PPA in New York City at a higher rate than they can sell it here, are they going to require us to use our zone's pricing instead of a PPA? It wouldn't surprise me if they establish what revenue sources can be considered income for an appraisal. That's my concern.
You think the state's gonna work to try and standardize those PPAs? In the past, they've been, fairly lucrative. But there's a pressure now to put them down at market rate, which is, considerably less. It's gonna affect the feasibility of some of these projects a lot, I think.
I don't have an answer to that. My only concern is I'd like to see what the standards are for doing an appraisal before we decide whether we think, before we can take a position on it. That's my problem. So, but we won't know until the budget's adopted if it's even going forward. It was proposed last year, I believe, the same scenario, but it was removed before the final budget, so maybe it'll get removed again. So, if you looked at Lightstar's data they sent, they used the NYSERDA calculator to come up with what they thought they should pay here in taxes, and it was significantly less than the pilots were negotiating.
$1,500.
If NYSERDA writes the appraisal standards around what they're giving out to solar companies now, it could push down significantly what the market value of these projects are.
And in Lakestar's case, while they said they are pursuing a 47, I did forward that back around to the county, and Bob Hagman sent me back a copy of the letter. So the county has notified Lightstar that they expect them to go through the pilot process, and not 47.
He also said their terms were totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
But we won't know until the budget's adopted whether or not it's included. I mean, I had mentioned that we should take a moratorium until we see what happens in the budget so we know where to go. But there's up to 90 to 120 days after the budget adoption for these agencies to establish those standards. So that will put projects out for half a year, which may be totally unacceptable.
Just one other item came up that joint meeting with overview too, is I asked, the committee was supportive of the idea for those projects in the READY program, those waterfront projects that do want to borrow funding, that we asked the board for approval of the 3% interest rate for those projects. So they can count that for their local match, that discounted interest rate.
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm having a hard time hearing you, Dan. I don't know, it's where you're setting approximation of the microphone or left.
So then just remember the committee meeting as well, we also discussed the idea of offering a 3%, a discounted 3% interest rate for those projects that do want to borrow money for their waterfront projects under the READY program, and then using that discounted interest rate as part of their local match, their local assistance. So we want to seek the board approval for that.
They're gonna be borrowing through the LDC or the IDA?
We're doing it through LDC or? I thought we were doing that.
Yeah, we talked about doing it through the LDC.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
Leverage.
thought we.
We did approve.
I think we did 5%. I think what we approved originally was 5%.
Can't remember.
Go ahead, Bill.
Part of the meeting, but a couple days after the meeting, I sat in on a Zoom meeting with the new developer for the Riverside Solar Project, which is in the town of Lyon, the town of Brownville. This was the original ground wall. You remember, probably a year ago, he came to our board, introduced himself and talked to us about this project, which is 100 megawatt solar and 20 megawatt battery storage. New company, AES, Clean Energy. I guess what happened was it was determined that it wasn't legal for National Grid to own a generating company, so that was broken up. I don't know if you're on the or not, but AES Energy Clean Energy company that's moving forward with this project. Same contact basically to this Eric Will talked with before, so kind of the front person. It was just kind of a get acquainted with the project again. They are moving forward with the process. They are going to use the 94C process. He talked about some things that I think, we're gonna discuss later on possibly, but, host community agreements was all through the conversation. With this company. But anyhow, it was just a kind of a, get to know each other again, and I'm anticipating that they'll probably reach out to us, the IDA, to bring us up to speed as well.
Well, under the 94C, it's NYSERDA, the siting board that will be negotiating host community agreements. They won't be negotiated directly by the developer, they'll be negotiated by the state, if there are going to be any.
If they're an deadfall effect, considered income.
I think one of the big things we came up with at that meeting too is that we're gonna look at our UTEP and with regards to renewable energy projects and, get that updated. And I asked everyone to send comments to Dave, and Dave's gonna start doing an outline on that so we can start moving ahead with updating our UTEP that better, addresses these renewable energy projects.
Yeah, I started going through and marking it up already, but
I think that's all I have.
Just had one question while Matt's with us. Dave, we talked about creating, before we finished the UTEP, I had brought up the concept of having an acknowledgement about where the developers are going to sign an acknowledgement that they haven't negotiated any host community agreements. Have we worked on that at all, the concept?
yeah, it's easy enough to draft up. Just question that if you want, if and when you want to enact that. I mean, we haven't amended the UTEP yet, so if you want to make that part of the application requirement, we can do that at any time if the board wants to approve it.
Well, we have 4 new projects, well, 5 projects. I think everyone saw the email that was sent out about them. I'd like to see us prepare that and before loan review, ask if we can put something together quickly, ask the developer to sign that, acknowledge that they have not negotiated a host community agreement absent the other taxing jurisdictions. Unless that's too hard to do.
Easy to do, just tell me to do it.
Well, I just didn't know whether we could, one, if Matt's with us, legally require them to sign an acknowledgement that, or a certification that they haven't negotiated any host community agreements outside of our pilot negotiations.
Yeah, Paul, I don't see any legal impediment to having such a requirement, nor do I see a legal impediment to a project having a host community agreement and a pilot agreement.
I understand that, but our goal is if there's going to be a host community agreement, that all the taxing jurisdictions need to understand it and be part of those negotiations and be comfortable with it. That's my point. I'm not saying it's our final decision whether or not there's a host community agreement. I don't want to see them negotiate with one jurisdiction and the others be left out in the cold, not knowing it's going on. So that's my goal.
Good call.
So I think, so a salary form is basically attesting to whether they are or are not in the process of looking at a host community agreement. I mean, it's not like we're not making the application contingent upon them not.
No.
That's correct, right, okay. Just want to make sure we get the wording right. Okay.
I don't think the application should be contingent upon it.
Right.
But our final decision may be contingent on whether or not they operated outside of the other taxing jurisdictions for negotiating arrangements.
You just disclose
It's a disclosure.
it. Yeah.
So, Paul, can you give me an example? It's like dealing with host community agreements. There seem to be getting more steam behind them. I can understand the benefit of a host community agreement in regards to school districts, but when it comes to the county and town, what would be in a host community agreement that would be more advantageous than the pilot for those taxes, for the town and county jurisdictions? And then to the point.
I was trying to avoid this, but we had one project that went out and negotiated a host community agreement for a substantial amount of money that was not tied to impacts. I certainly support if there's an impact related to a project and there's got to be a payment made to mitigate the impact. I don't have a problem with that. But just to create a host community agreement where you're cutting a huge check and it goes into the general fund, that's where we have to be concerned. I think some of these host community agreements are being done as a way to circumvent the tax cap law. Some of it, it's kind of hard to get into it until you find out exactly what they're talking about and what they do. Most host community agreements are either with the town or the schools. Very rarely do they include the county. And Matt, you've represented others, you probably know more than that, but.
Yeah, I would say around the state for renewable projects, host community agreements are most often used to shunt money to the most involved tax jurisdiction, the town. And it's part of the total revenue package that a project provides to the community. So it'd be HCA plus pilot payments, where all three tax jurisdictions share in the pilot payments. More recently, we're seeing school districts opt to take their pilot revenues as HCA revenues for some projects as a means, as Paul describes, of circumventing the tax cap rules, because HCA revenues are not recognized in the formula for calculating the tax cap, whereas pilot revenues are, without a corresponding increase in the tax base to allow them to absorb it without an adverse impact on their future levy. So I think they're quite common in renewable energy projects. But and forgive me, Paul, if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I think the concern expressed is that the first thing I described, where HCA's are used to alter the split of revenue that's effectively an in lieu of tax payment from a developer to the community, where all tax jurisdictions are not involved in that decision. That is of concern to Paul and others, and should not be a problem if the county and town or school districts sign off on it, where in the case of the project that Paul's referring to is the beneficiary. But where they've not been involved or have not signed off on it, or it have been kind of left in the dark, it's something that needs to be brought to the light of day.
So Matt, where the HCA is used as a way to alter the distribution of the collection, would the same thing not be accomplished by doing an other than pro rata share of the pilot payments?
Absolutely, Dave. You can do it by pilot so long, and split it other than by tax rate if all tax jurisdictions agree to the alternate split. So it's a different way of getting to the same place. That doesn't address the second issue that Paul and I talked about, which is how tax jurisdictions may prefer to receive their revenue to circumvent the tax cap. But that's over in Lewis County. It's not common. Those wind projects have not involved HCAs, but they have involved alternate splits. And that's been accomplished by tax jurisdiction sign off on the alternate split.
I mean, if one taxing jurisdiction wanted to give up their share totally, that's fine with us. I just think as we're representing all taxing jurisdictions in these negotiations, we need to make sure that everybody is involved, and whatever the final decision is by the taxing jurisdictions, we can be confident in that we're not creating problems, so. But,
So are all of these, this Raleigh also, and I agree with what Matt and Paul said, I mean, whatever money's put on the table, if everyone walks away with their deserved split, or they agree differently, that's fine. But what we're talking about with some of these host community agreements, don't these now go under the deviation process?
Well, we have, yes, I mean, they are, but so is part of our deviation process. In fact, back before Gulu closed, we actually had come to a point where this town, the Hounsfield, the school district and the county were going to agree. I think the school district was agreeing to give up some of its payments, if I recall correctly, and have more of it go toward the town, a greater share. So that would be a deviation that would require the approval of all the affected taxing jurisdictions. But so that is a deviation, and we've considered that in the past. That would be where we distribute the pilot payments other than pro rata.
Okay, so I guess what we're looking to do is have staff add that to our application, correct? That they,
Yep, I'll get the draft to you. Yep.
okay, thanks. Anything else for alternative energy? Ken, building and grounds?
Yeah, we had a Zoom meeting yesterday, with Denise Young, to give us an update on the project and, some of the changes that they're making. She mentioned that they're looking at the possibility of putting a new roof on it completely, they're getting some costs to redo that. If so, there could be a cost to the agency, we don't know that yet, and the agency's gonna make that decision when time comes. She gave us an update, on kind of the schedule and on the finances where they stand. Outside that, I'll turn over to Dave.
Yeah, the roof Ken mentioned, so the current roof on there, we did a 10-year warranty extension back in 2013, so that extension ends in 2023, the warranty does. The roof probably, likely has some life expectancy beyond that point, but we did have a leak about a week and a half ago that we got repaired under the warranty, and the Y is looking at whether or not they want to try to replace the roof. They do have to replace the part where they're raising the roof of the tennis courts. But whether they want to replace the whole roof now, so they're, next week, they're gonna try to do an infrared, survey or inspection of the roof condition and see if it's something they want to do, but they can also, at the same point, have the engineers, kind of mark out our section of the roof. If we want to, should the Y decide to move ahead, we may want to move ahead at the same time, knowing that the roof's gonna be replaced over that tenant space at some point anyways. It'd probably be cheaper to do it while the company's there, mobilizing equipment and doing it as one job and avoiding any seam. But again, we don't need to make the decision to find what the real condition of the roof is and what those cost estimates are, but it's being examined right now.
What's the normal life?
Dave, what's holding up our closing? Why? Last month, there was some documents, month before, was some documents. It seems like there's just always like some signature we're missing.
What's holding up what?
The closing on getting
Oh,
money from the
well,
Y.
They've got that 4 months to do due diligence, so we should be getting into that. I'll look at the map, but we should be getting close to having to do that very soon.
Seems like we approved this late last year, so we're not beyond that 4 month period.
Was it November? So we're probably getting it, yeah.
Yeah, we're March.
Yeah, I'll check on it.
Yeah, it seems like every month, it was like, 1 month Joe said he couldn't get a hold of the lawyer for like the whole month. Just, I don't know, it seemed to be quite evasive.
where are we with our tenant, potential tenant too?
They told me they expect, I reached out to them the other day and they will be getting back to me, he said, at the end of this week. So today or tomorrow, hopefully. Now I'll follow up with them again.
I think another thing we should talk about too, Dave, on top of the roof, but they're also talking about building out in the build out of changing all the windows, refacing the walls with insulated type panels. That may require us to do that for the balance of the building on top of the roof project. So, that's a decision we'll have to make as a board whether we want to continue with that, but she is talking about refacing the building and replacing windows as part of that roof project.
Right.
Funding.
Yeah, well, yeah, that window, that building
Costs
face,
associated with this project in Ukraine, that's all said and done.
yeah, the windows and the facing of the building, that's gonna be part of the overall project regardless. The roof is something they're considering as adding on to the project at this point. So part of the delay to this, Don, too, while we approved that, the agreement back in November, it was like another month or so before we finally signed and executed it because we had to work on some language to adjust it to fit the requirements of the granting agency.
Okay, so they have to April 1st, give or take.
Yeah.
All right. Ken, roughly that's one. Back in December, there was some email correspondence about if you and Don into different options, talking about the lease portion of the building, the part we're gonna continue to own. Has there been any more thought? We actually had an offer, it wasn't a great one. We had an offer to sell it outright. And I just wonder, now we're talking about spending money, like, have we really run things to ground, or we committed that we're gonna create some space and get a tenant in there? I mean, I'd still like to see some of the final numbers. John brings up the point, we gotta maybe reface the building, now we put a roof on it, we gotta do utility work inside. I still think, frankly, the best option is to take money and run. In my personal opinion, I don't have the numbers to support that, but it would be good if we could run that to ground.
There has not been any more discussion on that, Rob. Well, I think that we have a potential tenant, and I think we want to see what happens there first.
Yeah.
So, no, there has not been any more
All
discussion.
right. Well, in the early discussions with the potential tenant, they're not willing to spend money until March of 2023, as I recall. I mean, we're on the dime. We're gonna spend about $100K a year just to have that property, outside of insurance and depreciation, we're stuck with anyway. But we are spending money every single year. And now we're talking about spending more money. I kind of just want to draw our team's attention to, sometimes the option is walk away. It may be the best option. I'm not saying it is, but it'd be good to have that discussion again.
Well, isn't that water over the dam at this point in time, Rob? Because of the grant. Why to do that
Not
project?
the building ad, we own 15,000, we can sell that. That's ours. It has nothing to do with tree.
You're talking about the lease space.
The lease portion, yes,
Okay,
sorry.
all right,
Probably
all right.
clarify that at the beginning.
Okay,
So
all right.
just the 15,000 piece, which may or may not be 15,000 when we're all done. We had a prospective buyer, it's a crappy offer, but, at the end of the day, I guess we want to ask ourselves, do we want to be landlords for 30 years and deal with all the things we're just talking about? Somebody should really run the numbers of what it's going to take to be landlord versus what it's going to take to take a pile of cash and walk away.
Well, the other question I have, where do we stand right now with the tentative, long-term tenant in our lease space? Are we going to be financing or putting the bill for their developmental costs, to put that into the workable space that they need?
That part will still be negotiated, what the rent would be with the last proposal that Don put forward. That's what's still out there. And then negotiating whether we do the improvements or whether they do them as leasehold improvements and we lend them the money to do it. So.
Yeah, but they're, right now,
So if we lend them money, they'd be taking it out. If we end up doing it, we probably incorporate that into a higher rent.
well, that was the original conception to begin with, was we were gonna develop it and the monthly rental income was going to include, payback for the capital cost and the loan. But it puts it's my understanding, it puts their square footage lease rate kind of in the high-end category, and were they not concerned that it may not be affordable?
Well, I mean,
Or
that's a concern, but they haven't really said one way or the other where they're at, so.
I think that's my problem, Dave, is they have all the time in the world, we don't.
Right.
We need to basically get a commitment. What is gonna happen under a particular timetable? The only person spending money is our agents, and I don't really mean to sound critical or mean about this.
No, that's a good point.
We're the ones at risk. We're spending all the money. We're taking all the responsibility. We've collected nothing. And you know, we have a tenant, maybe they're a good fit, maybe they're not, I don't care, one way or the other, but selling it outright should not be taken off the table. And I think a lot on our board have considered that we don't want to sell it outright, it's more fall off. I say just run the numbers and keep your mind open.
If I might jump in here, and I'm going back to what John just mentioned about reskinning the building. Between the roof now and reskinning the building, we're gonna probably spend more than what we're gonna take in the sale to the Y. I mean, should we allow them to reskin the building that is gonna cost us substantial funds to finish our section? How much control do we have over what their modifications are going to do when it's could cost us substantial funds?
Well, we are the owner.
Right, I understand all that, but it's almost getting to the point where we might better just give them all the space and walk away with our $500,000 and let them worry about the vacant space.
I have a question. I apologize for going backwards, but I wasn't part of the board when these negotiations occurred with the Y. Well, I guess my question is, was there ever a consideration for the Y just to take the entire building?
Yes, they didn't want to.
Okay,
They,
I think,
they didn't want to be landlords because of their status. They have like a 501c3 or something of that nature. They don't want to be a for-profit agency, be a landlord, and they don't need space.
okay, and I think your concerns are justified with the exterior cladding and the roof. And again, I'm not sure what the HVAC situation even looks like in that section, or, you know, the entire building was controlled before, but all those obviously need to be looked at and the cost put against it.
But still, the roof, if the roof issue, there's two spaces. There's the roof above our lease space, the 15,000 feet. Or yeah, 14.2. And then there's the roof space above the Y. All the roof space above the Y isn't going to be our dime or our concern. No, right? So we're just looking at that square footage over our tenant space.
Let's run the numbers.
And again, I'm not siding one way or the other. I'm saying let's be open-minded.
I don't disagree, Rob. Let's get the numbers. We can't really, tell much until we have some numbers in front of us.
We don't have all of the design modifications, all those things are really going to be, the person that was interested in buying may not be interested at all anymore. So I mean, that may just be off the table.
The question I have, Dave, is, this is dragging and dragging and dragging. There's an August of 22 completion deadline. Are they still looking at that?
Yes, yep.
They need to motivate them.
No, they're still, as we're going through all this design stuff, we were meeting yesterday with the city planning department. We had a meeting over there at City Hall. So we'll be going to the county planning board at the end of this month, city planning board April 6th, I think. And then approved by city council at the end of April for the site plan.
Okay.
So the plan still is to break ground July, August this summer and be done by July, August next summer.
Okay, we'll look forward to hearing from you on our possible tenant as soon as you come up with that. Alrighty, moving right on. Jay, what do you have for us today?
Well, fortunately, to keep it short for you, I really don't have any new developments to report on. We've been working on meat processing, a couple different things involving the dairy industry, working with several farms and businesses looking at this whole demand for local. I've got some businesses and farms, like I said, that are trying to figure out what this year's going to do as far as that local demand and how they best take advantage of it. I see Agbotic, they're expanding, they're trying to hire new people at their facility, so it's good to see that happening. So really that's about it, nothing new on the stage to report.
Let's hope we have our early spring for the farmers.
It's close to 60 by next Wednesday, so get rid of all this snow. That was directed at Marshall.
No, I will say it was nice. My wife came home from the supermarket the other day and we put together a green salad, and she pulls out a container from the refrigerator, and it's baby radishes from Sackett's Harbor, New York, right? And it's like fresh, green, like it came out of your garden yesterday. It's like, what a refreshing moment that is, you know? So.
And we, one of the projects that I'm assisting with is another business that's looking at something not exactly like that, but similar. They see opportunity, so.
Any questions for Jay? Marshall, or wait a minute, Dave?
I'm gonna jump in here real quick and just say I've gotta leave. I've gotta get on the road to Potsdam, so.
Travel safe.
See everybody later. Thanks.
Travel safe, Greg.
See you, Greg. Manufacturing?
The main thing there, we're still waiting for final word from the Hazard Abatement Board on our grant for the safety training to get that executed and in place for the coming year.
Okay. Marketing?
Okay, I'm going to show everybody our new website here that I'm expecting to go live at the end of next week. Couple things, a lot cleaner look. The map is larger, which has always been sort of a stick in my craw, if that's the right thing to say. Got some, key points that we use. I'm excited about it. It hasn't, there's still a lot of, fine tuning and things like that need to go into it, but I am really pumped. A lot of white space. It's a lot cleaner design. I'm excited about it. I guess, I just wanted to unveil that. I don't know if anybody has any comments or? Who's the data center? Let me see here. Data center, just drop down of these things here, properties, demographics, talent, maps. We're gonna be, a lot of the stuff that we do, we're gonna be over here in the About Us. I might put a little regulatory thing up here, but I think probably a lot of you, when you guys go to our website, you're clicking on these areas here.
Jay, Marshall, 2 nights ago, I caught the new promotional video downtown business put together.
Yep.
Have you seen that?
I have not seen that. I heard that it was going up.
It was just a phenomenal job.
Great.
And, I don't know, some of that may be appropriate to tie to a segment of yours, but that was very well done. I've never seen downtown Watertown look so beautiful.
Well, we can have, that's one of the nice things about, we did this website about a year early so that we could get it over to WordPress. And with this WordPress, it is so much easier to add things like video. This hero image, now I don't like when you go onto a website and then a video starts playing, and especially don't like it when video starts playing and there's volume to it. But here in the media center, we could put all of our videos. We could put that video right here on the center of it. But
it's so much easier to do a lot of different cool things. We can move all this stuff around, make it above, make it below. We got a video running right here. It's just, WordPress has been around forever, and there's a reason for it. Our other website was built off a different platform, a lot more complicated, a lot more difficult. I mean, yes, I had experience with WordPress, but I got back into it in about 2 minutes and was able to make some pretty substantial change. All these things, they had just placeholders here, all of these, this was new. They had adjusted this hero image, which you may remember. I'm not going to any more COVID imagery like on our current website. Videos, from the marketing side, it's also easier to do a lot of social media posting and things like that. So really excited about it.
Take a look at their video. You may be able to incorporate it.
I'm gonna do that right after this meeting, absolutely.
Hey, Marshall?
Sure.
I guess this could be directed to Jay. Jay, what about that video that the PBS did there? Is that something they can put on, will that apply to this website?
Jay walked out, but I'm familiar with the one you're talking about. It absolutely could.
That seems like a pretty applicable video for this thing.
Yep.
Marshall, I'm excited to see this. Having gone through this process with the Adirondack Economic Development Corporation, I know there's a ton of work and time and effort that's put into this, so it's just perfect. So
PBS video.
it's well appreciated. It looks terrific from my vantage point here.
Thanks, Rob.
John thought it could be added.
Okay.
All right, well, that's me. As a lot of you know, I was out last week. I was scouting economic development in Utah, so.
Under the avalanche.
Under the avalanche warnings.
Alrighty.
On foot or on ski, we're not sure.
On ski.
Park City?
Alta.
Alrighty, unfinished business. Anything, Dave?
Nope.
New business.
New business we have, I put Peg sent out this morning, it dawned on me last night, just as a backup. We have on the agenda for the IDA, a resolution to allow us to apply to the USDA for some funding to support the Commonwealth Energy Project. We're expecting one of our other partners to be the applicant on behalf of the DigiCollect. But I thought, it wouldn't hurt just in case, the application due the end of this month, in case something comes up, to be authorized for the LDC to authorize to apply to USDA on behalf of DigiCollect. So we'd have two different entities applying for two different projects in case something fell through on the other one. So this would basically allow us to apply to the USDA Rural Business Development Grant for working capital to support some of the expenses with the DigiCollect project out by the airport.
Which agency is doing the other one?
So
Yeah.
IDA is doing Convol, and then LDC is doing DigiCollect.
Oh, okay. When you said other, yeah, I didn't know if Tank was doing it or somebody.
They might, but we're not certain.
This allows us to,
Right.
if we need to, allows you to, okay. I have resolution number 0304-2021.01. It's a resolution authorization to apply for rural business development grant to assist in the construction of a software development and sensor manufacturing facility in Jefferson County. I entertain a motion and a second on this resolution.
So moved.
Second, this is Chris.
Any discussion? On the resolution, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you. Anything else, Dave, for the LDC?
No.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the JCLDC?
So, second, John.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you. With that, I'll call to order Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency. Once again, this is our monthly board meeting, Thursday, March 4th, 2021. We had the pledge at our other meeting, and so I once again will open the privilege of the floor. If anyone wants to address the JCIDA. Okay, seeing none, we received our minutes from both our February 11th meeting and our special meeting of February 18th. Is there any additions and or corrections?
No, sir, I'll move them as presented. Rob White.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Treasurer's report, page 51.
Page 51, packet. So our break-even budget would be achieving $109,500 a month. We're on a linear basis, almost $120,000 a month. Most of it's the RCA funds that'll skewing it a little bit right now. And then also, I just want to draw a note that if you look at year-to-date, compared to last month, we reversed out $403,000 of the pilot. I think, I'm guessing because of those Omni projects that were delayed, they were booked and then taken off.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, so there's, if you looked at last month, there's a discrepancy of 403,000 and some change that's been removed. They'll get added on if we defer 60 or 90 days, whatever that time period is. But so it sounds like it'll still be this fiscal year. So that's the revenue side. Operational expense side, same break-even budget, almost 109,500 spent expenditures. We're actually spending about 116,000 a month. Again, most of it's the RCA. So as we go through this, there's nothing else that seems to be above budget. So the RCA is only being distributed for 5 months after 12 months. So kind of get us more on target. We do have a small surplus for the year. 16,000 revenue over expenses, and that's even with that 400,000 move. So we appear to be in very good shape with the IDA side. 52, with your tax balance sheet. Quick assets, 206,000 lower than prior month. Again, some of it's pilot distribution, general checking is the majority of where changes were. Receivables, 300,000 lower than prior month. Other 4,000 lower than prior month, and current assets are about 51,000 lower than prior month. Total assets are, yeah, 500,000 and 50,000 lower than prior month. Total current liability 47,000 lower than prior month. Total capital is 465,000 lower than prior month. Yeah, so the 500,000, the asset, I think it had to do with that 400,000 of the other stuff. Yeah, the pilot was reversed, so that's where the majority of the change from prior month is 400,000 back out. Otherwise, it's 40 to 50,000. Page 54 of your packet, 146 Arsenal. We're still spending about 8,800 a month after you pull out depreciation and things of that. So we've actually spent about 44,000 in the first 5 months of the year. Again, the first 5 months of the year, we already discussed that. 57, 58, 59 are our loan programs. They are all either current or on a moratorium, and ServPro is paid in full. So that will obviously be removed in next month's loan package. That's the treasurer's report for IDA. I will make a motion to accept it as presented.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Loan review? Rob?
Yeah, I mean, Bill already covered it under LLC, but recap, we kind of just, we went through the joint, meeting with the alternative energy, we discussed, updating the UTAP. I'll not go into detail on that. It's a working process. Dave Debiak earlier gave us an update on ready grants. there was no particular action under the loan review. It's just a vehicle to have a joint meeting. So, good meeting and continue with that.
So we did, under the loan review, did recommend that we lower our interest rate to 3% for the ready grant projects. And I think
Did we? Okay, I don't remember that. It's in here. We must have, okay, I apologize. I missed that. Yes, that did get brought up.
not a problem, but at this time, I'd like to have a motion from the full board on that, for the ready grant projects, that we lower our interest rate to 3% from the traditional 5%.
I'll make that motion, probably also.
Second, John.
So does that make the contribution proportion the difference between the 5% and 3%?
No, it's not the difference between our typical rate, but you take say that the market rate for an unsecured loan, it's 7% or 8%, you use that.
So we can use that.
So our 5% we consider discount, the 3% makes more of a discount now and can address.
So we use bank interest. Okay, great.
Any other discussion? On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. That takes care of loan review. We've already discussed 146, the YMCA, and the ready grant, so we're moving right along. Page 64. Under new business, we have resolution number 0304 2021.01. It's a resolution authorizing to apply for rural business development grant to assist in construction of a solar panel manufacturing facility in Jefferson County. And I entertain a motion and a second on this resolution.
I'll move it.
Second, probably also.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you, everyone. On page 64, no, that's one we just did, I'm sorry. Page 67, under counselor.
Justin's available if we need him, but he was doing something else. I said we probably handle this pretty straightforward. We can handle it without it.
Okay.
So again, this is just the authorizing resolution that we discussed at the last board meeting, where we did preliminary approval for a 10-year pilot for the Roth expansion project, 6,700 square feet expansion and 10,000 square foot separate warehousing facility. And again, to be a 10-year pilot, 100% abatement for the first 5 years, 50% for the next 5, and then it would go on full taxation in year 11. So it still balances out to the 50% discount on property taxes over that 15-year period.
So with it, I have resolution number 0304 2021.02. It's a resolution of Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency appointing Roth Industries Incorporated for itself and or on behalf of an entity or entities to be formed, collectively the company and its agent, undertake a certain project as more fully described below, authorizing the execution and delivery of an agent agreement, leaseback agreement, payment in lieu of tax agreement, and related documents with respect to the project, authorizing the provisions of certain financial assistance to the company as further defined herein, adopting findings with respect to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and authorizing the execution of related documents with respect to the project. Do I have any questions regarding this resolution for Roth Industries?
No, sir.
With that, roll call vote, please, Peggy.
We need a motion first. You want to do a motion
I'll make a
first?
motion to accept these resolutions.
Second. I'll second it.
Getting ahead of myself. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, Rob?
Did you say Rob?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Dave?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Thank you, everyone. Attorney Moses, we have a couple for us today. Matt?
Yes, the two matters before the board are tax exemption resolutions which declare that the IDA views the proposed pilot agreement for each of the U.S. Light Energy Carthage A and Carthage B projects as being compliant with the uniform tax exemption policy. And the second set of resolutions relates to authorizing the financial assistance for each of those projects so that they can move forward to closing, which hopefully can happen mid to late March.
Okay, I have resolution 0304 2021.03, be page 90 of your packet. It's a resolution determining conformity of planned financial assistance with uniform tax exemption policy for a certain commercial project for New York USLE Carthage SR26, a LLC, the company. Can I have a motion and a second on this resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one quick question, it's really a little off topic. We had the issue with GSPP and how long can a company delay closing on one of these?
I discussed that with Matt. He pointed out that the agreement allows them 2 years.
Yeah, the preliminary agreement has that fuse on it. But I think these projects, according to their council at least, are shovel ready and they're looking to start and construct this summer.
I more asked the question when we get to the point where we're discussing the utility scale one, which could be a much longer time frame.
Oh, yeah.
So whether or not we want to shorten that if we get to a preliminary agreement and we're uncomfortable, that's not a statutory requirement, it's just our dates, Matt?
Correct. It's a policy decision.
Anything else? Roll call vote, Peggy, please.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Resolution carries. Thank you, everyone. On page 94, I have resolution 0304 2021.04. It's a resolution of Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency taking official action towards straight lease transaction with New York USLE Carthage SR26, a LLC, the company, for the purpose of acquisition, construction, installation, and equipment of a solar-powered electric generating facility in the town of Champion. I entertain a motion and a second on this resolution.
So moved, Rob Lasso.
Second, vote down.
Discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Peggy.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Thank you. Page 105 of your packet, I have resolution 0304 2021.05. It's a resolution determining conformity with the planned financial assistance with uniform tax exemption policy for certain commercial project for New York USLE Carthage SR26B LLC, the company. I entertain a motion and a second on this resolution.
So moved, Rob Lasso.
Second.
Any discussion, questions, comments? Roll call vote, please, Becky.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bill, Lisa.
Yes.
Resolution carries, thank you. Page 109 of our packet, we have resolution number 0304, 2021.06. It's a resolution of Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency taking official action toward a straight lease transaction with New York USLE Carthage, SR26B LLC, the company, for the purpose of acquisition, construction, installation, and equipment of a solar-powered electric generating facility in the town of Champion. And again, I entertain a motion and a second on this resolution.
So moved, so Johnson.
Second, John.
Discussion on this resolution. Roll call vote, please, Peggy.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Thank you. At this time, anything else, Dave? I have, I'd like to ask a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of possible litigation.
You're asking for a motion? or
Yes.
you make it?
I'd ask.
I'll make a motion for what you just said, go into executive session, discussion of possible litigation. And we would allow staff, board, LDC, and the law council.
No, it doesn't pertain to,
Matt, okay, I wasn't sure.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay,
Thank you, Matt.
do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
I'm
I'll
Matt.
second the motion for executive session.
Okay, on the motion to go into executive session, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in executive session.
Okay, one second. I can get some of those,
Marshall's pausing the live stream.
Yes, yeah.